With practically all the top 2021 NFL free agents now signed, TPS school is officially in session. Which signings received high grades, and which ones left us disappointed? It's time to hand out the grades for the top 20 free agent signings of 2021. Here they are in no particular order. Kenny GOLLADAY, B+. The Giants landed the top skill position player on the market at a price of $72 million over 4 years. It's a lot of money, yes, but GOLLADAY is arguably a top 10 receiver in the game. That's the price you pay to get a guy of his caliber. GOLLADAY surpassed 1,000 receiving yards in 2018 and 2019. He missed all but 5 games in 2020, but he'll be back to full health for 2021. He missed all but 5 games in 2020, but he'll be back to full health in 2021. It's a make or break year for Daniel Jones. The front office needed to get him some help, and they did just that by signing the best wide receiver available. J.J. Watt, C. Watt is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, but a 2-year pact worth $28 million is a bit of an overpay. The Arizona Cardinals don't exactly need pass rushing help. Chandler Jones will be back at full strength in 2021. Dennis Gardeck is coming off a breakout year, and Isaiah Simmons can only improve after a disappointing rookie season. The Cardinals should have spent this money to upgrade the offensive line, rushing game, and especially the secondary after losing Patrick Peterson. Even if Watt pans out, he'll simply be another pass rushing luxury rather than a necessity. At least it's only a 2-year term. Matthew Judon, A-. The Patriots' pass rush and run defense was uncharacteristically soft last year. The return of Dont'a Hightower will change that, and so will newcomer Matthew Judon. The Patriots signed the workhorse linebacker to a 4-year contract worth $56 million. Judon is tailor-made for this defense, which has a lot of similarities to the one he shined in with Baltimore. The 2-time Pro Bowler has posted at least 8 sacks every year from 2017 to 2019. He had 6 in 14 games last year. He'll bolster New England's run D and add more juice to this pass rush. A tremendous signing by Belichick. It should go down as one of the absolute best. Andy Dalton, D. The Chicago Bears finally moved on from Mitch Trubisky, but his replacement hardly qualifies as an upgrade. The Bears signed Andy Dalton to a 1-year deal worth an overly generous $10 million. Seriously, who were the Bears trying to outbid here? Dalton couldn't get it done on a Dallas Cowboys team that was loaded with talent at the skill positions. Not seeing how he'll suddenly turn back the clock with a lackluster offensive line and a stale offensive playbook. The Bears have to at least draft a quarterback now. Kyle Fuller, B+. One team's loss is another's gain. The Chicago Bears surprisingly released the 2-time Pro Bowl cornerback, and he didn't stay on the market for long. The Denver Broncos moved quickly to scoop up Fuller on a bargain 1-year pact worth $9.5 million. The Broncos also signed veteran standout Ronald Darby, and they retained the strong safety duo of Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson. Fuller will blossom under Vic Fangio, his former defensive coordinator in Chicago. Denver now has a guy who can go head-to-head with all those stud receivers in the AFC West. Anthony Harris, B+. The Philadelphia Eagles had to mix up a leaky pass defense this offseason. They found a relatively cheap solution in Anthony Harris, who took a 1-year deal worth $5 million. The money and term equal minimal risk for the Eagles. Harris regressed in 2020 following a breakout 2019 campaign that saw him rack up 6 interceptions and 11 passes defended. If he doesn't work out, Philly can always flip him at the trade deadline. Philly! ADOREE Jackson, D-. We don't see anything to suggest ADOREE Jackson is worth the 3-year, $39 million deal. But hey, this is the New York Giants. They love overpaying guys in free agency. This move is also puzzling because the Titans just released Jackson, who still had 1 more year left on his contract at $10 million. So why not just trade a future conditional 7th-round pick for him and save that $3 million against the cap? Also, if the Titans weren't willing to pay him $10 million for 1 more year, is he really worth $13 million a season for the next 3 years? This contract makes 0 sense. Will Fuller V, A+. Fuller enjoyed a career year in 2020 despite missing the final 5 games because of a suspension. He'll also miss a week 1 of the 2021 campaign, but that's all for another day. How in the world did the Miami Dolphins get the speedy wideout on a 1-year deal worth just $10.6 million? Everybody knew Miami's main goal was to supply Tua Tagovailoa with another dynamic pass catcher to complement Devontae Parker. Suddenly, the Finns now have one of the league's top receiving duos, at least on paper. If Fuller pans out, they can extend him. If not, whatever, it's only a 1-year deal. But something tells us he'll be a star in South Beach. YANNICK NGAKOUE, B. For once, the Las Vegas Raiders didn't ridiculously overpay someone in free agency. Rather, they got the young veteran pass rusher on a very reasonable 2-year deal worth $26 million. NGAKOUE was productive in his first 3 NFL stops, recording at least 8 sacks in each of his first 5 NFL seasons. The Raiders know what they're getting in him, and if NGAKOUE pans out, he and Max Crosby will form a scary good pass rushing duo, which the Raiders are going to need with Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in their division. Hunter Henry, B-. Henry was one of the 4 pass catchers Bill Belichick inked in the early days of free agency. The standout tight end signed a 3-year pact worth $37.5 million. This is a bit of an overpay. Henry has never played a full 16-game season, but if healthy, he'll get you 50-something catches and around 600 receiving yards. He'll create plenty of one-on-one mismatches and open up the field for the Patriots' other weapons too. It may be a little too much money, but Henry promises to be effective in Foxborough. We doubt Belichick ends up regretting this signing. Ryan Fitzpatrick, C+. Washington released Alex Smith and found an upgrade in journeyman Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Beard signed a 1-year deal with the NFC East champions worth $10 million. The thing is, we know how this story goes. Fitz will have his monster stat lines and heroic performances mixed in with some mind-numbing mistakes that will probably get him benched. But that's okay. This Washington team won the division with much worse last year, thanks to an elite defense. I'm sure the D would happily deal with a few more turnovers in short fields if it means scoring more than 20.9 points per game. And that's likely what Fitz will give him. Corey Davis, C. We love that the New York Jets prioritized upgrading the passing game for Sam Darnold, or whoever their next quarterback is. But giving Corey Davis a 3-year pact worth $37.5 million? I don't know. Davis was a disappointment in 2017 and 2019, but he played like a #1 receiver in 2018 and 2020. Which version will the Jets get? That's the question that needs to be answered. But for the time being, it just seems like a little too much money, although the Jets did have to get a veteran receiver one way or another, hence the C grade. Curtis Samuel, A+. Adding another receiver to complement Terry McLaurin was a necessity. Washington landed the speedy Samuel on a 3-year pact for $34.5 million, and we absolutely love everything about this contract. Samuel racked up over 1,000 yards of offense on a Carolina Panthers team that had Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore eating up a majority of the targets. Now he goes to Washington, where he'll have an expanded role. Samuel is once again reunited with Ron Rivera, who will likely do everything he can to feature the 2020 breakout star in his rebuilt Washington offense. William Jackson III, B. Though Washington had one of the NFL's best defenses in 2020, they simply had to address a lackluster cornerback depth chart. Chase Young and the stout front seven can't do it all on their own, so it's hard to complain about the 3-year, $40.5 million deal they gave former Cincinnati Bengals corner William Jackson. He was quietly one of the NFL's top corners last season, allowing just a 51.4 completion percentage when targeted. This signing should make an already scary Washington defense that much scarier. Carl Lawson, A. The Jets strike out far more often than not when it comes to handing out expensive contracts in free agency. But we have every reason to think that Carl Lawson will be an exception. Lawson, who signed a 3-year deal worth $45 million, is the perfect fit for Robert Saleh's defense. He's a very productive pass rusher, recording 54 quarterback hits over the last 2 seasons. Lawson had 5.5 sacks in 2020, but if he plays all 16 games, he feels like a safe bet to hit double digits while lining up next to Quinnen Williams in New York. TREY Hendrickson, C. The Bengals decided not to retain Lawson, and they replaced him with former New Orleans Saints defensive end TREY Hendrickson. The latter signed a 4-year deal worth a whopping $60 million. Signing one of the top pass rushers on the market is a nice idea and all. Hendrickson had a career-high 13.5 sacks last season, but how did the Bengals know if he'll match that success? Before 2020, Hendrickson only had 6.5 career sacks through his first 3 seasons, and playing in a star-studded Florida defense, alongside pass rushing sensation Cameron Jordan, obviously helped him have a career season. So yeah, there's a lot of risk in this deal. And if Hendrickson doesn't pan out, the Bengals will probably regret not spending that money to retain Lawson instead. Jonnu Smith, B+. The Patriots landed the former Tennessee Titans tight end on a 4-year deal worth $50 million. Smith's career numbers would suggest that this is an overpay, but we don't see it that way. Belichick raved about Smith's talents during his time in Tennessee, stating that he's probably the best in the league after the catch. The Patriots had the league's worst pass-catching group last year, but that should change in 2021. Corey Linsley, C+. The Los Angeles Chargers had to prioritize the offensive line for rising superstar QB Justin Herbert. So we're obviously big fans of the Corey Linsley signing. The center signed a monster 5-year deal worth $62.5 million. For the most part, we love the move, but Linsley isn't exactly young. He'll be 30 years old when the 2021 season begins, and he wasn't exactly a superstar before last year's All-Pro campaign. So how do we know he isn't just a one-year wonder? But you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, as Wayne Gretzky once said. And the Chargers had the cap space, so it's worth the gamble. Bud Dupree, C. Yes, the Titans needed pass rushing help after recording just 19 sacks in 2020, but surely there were better options than giving Bud Dupree a giant 5-year deal worth $82.5 million. Dupree broke out in 2019, recording 11.5 sacks and 4 forced fumbles. He missed 5 games last season, but still managed 8 sacks. So if all goes well, the Titans will have a double-digit sack threat. But folks, this isn't rocket science. Dupree played on a Pittsburgh team that had superstars TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, and Stephon Tuitt. The attention those players garner probably helped free up Dupree for more than a few of his sacks. He doesn't offer much in the run-stopping department either. It's just too much money for a guy who was really only the 4th or 5th best player on that Steelers front 7. Joe THUNEY, A-. You watched the Super Bowl. That was ugly. The Kansas City Chiefs knew they just could not do that to Patrick Mahomes ever again. They released expensive veterans Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, which seemed crazy at first, but GM Brett Veach had a plan, which involved using that freed up cap space to sign former Patriots guard Joe THUNEY to a 5-year deal worth $80 million. The 2-time Super Bowl champion hasn't missed a game in his 5-year career. He's a star in pass protection, and he's not too shabby as a run blocker either. Was he expensive? Yes, but the Chiefs have to give Mahomes some long-term protection up front, and THUNEY will supply him with just that. But what grades would you hand out to your NFL team's free agent signings? Let us know in the comment section below. If you liked this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton, and hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.